I want you to think back to um, a time when you met someone new. Maybe it was at like a neighborhood dinner party or, a new coworker you just bumped into in the break room.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there.
Right. And within the first, I don't know, 5 minutes, they stumbled over their words. Or maybe they laughed just a little too loud at a joke that just wasn't that funny.
Or they held eye contact for a split second too long.
Exactly. And instantly, your brain just flashes this massive neon warning sign. You probably thought to yourself, like, I don't know what it is, but I do not trust this person.
It's just a gut reaction.
Yeah, totally. But now I want you to flip that exact scenario. Have you ever met someone who was just, incredibly smooth?
Oh, the polished ones?
Yes. They had the perfect, polished answer for literally everything. Their posture was impeccable, they sounded overwhelmingly confident, and you just found yourself nodding along.
You're just blindly handing over your trust before they even say anything of actual substance.
Exactly. We all do it. And today, we are going to figure out exactly why our internal radar is just so wildly broken.
It really is a universal human experience. And the crazy thing is, it is entirely by design. We're diving into some absolutely fascinating concepts today.
Yeah, the mission for this deep dive is to look straight into this profound blind spot in human psychology. We're pulling from these excerpts of an essay titled The Friction of Honesty and the Fluency of Deceit.
Right, and what we're going to unpack today completely turns our understanding of these, everyday social judgments completely upside down.
We're going to explore why our brains seem hardwired to ostracize the most genuine, honest people in the room, while at the exact same time elevating the most deceitful ones.
It sounds like a heavy claim, I know. But when you look at the underlying logic of how our minds actually process social cues, well, it starts to explain so much about the world we live in.
It really does. So where do we even start with this?
Well, what's fascinating here is the foundational premise from the text. Our social instincts, those powerful gut feelings we rely on every single day to judge someone's character, are essentially running on an outdated evolutionary operating system.
Like old software.
Exactly. We are trying to navigate these highly complex, modern social dynamics using prehistoric software, and that software is desperately overdue for an update.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really grasp why we judge people so poorly today, like in a boardroom or at a coffee shop, we have to look at the original environment where those judgments were formed in the first place.
Right, because we obviously didn't evolve in boardrooms. We evolved in incredibly dangerous environments where the stakes were literally life and death.
Yeah, the source paints this really vivid picture of early human groups huddled around a fire. The world outside that light is entirely hostile.
Very hostile. And in that specific environment, if a group couldn't rapidly identify and push out a genuine threat, they simply didn't survive. I mean, there was no time for nuance.
Right, you couldn't sit around and psychoanalyze someone's childhood trauma before deciding if they were a threat.
No, not at all. You had to rely on really blunt physical signals. Long before humans had the complex vocabulary to discuss, psychology or intent, we learned to read microscopic anomalies in behavior.
Like what kind of anomalies?
Like a body moving with a slight hesitation, or a face that holds just a bit too still, or even a sudden silence that falls in the wrong place during an interaction.
Oh, wow. So just tiny disruptions.
Exactly. Our ancestors learned to read those tiny disruptions as vital information, and that information basically translated to one overarching concept: danger.
Danger. Just instantly.
Instantly. The rule for survival was simple and incredibly ruthless. If something triggers that alarm, move it to the edge of the firelight, get it away from the center of the group before it can do any harm.
Okay, wait, because here is where I think the core distinction really lies in the essay. That ancient instinct wasn't actually tuned to detect danger. It was tuned to detect difference.
Yes, that is the crucial pivot.
Think about it like one of those cheap, hypersensitive motion sensor lights. You know, the ones you install over your driveway.
Oh yeah, they go off all the time.
Right. You put it up because you want to be warned if, say, an armed burglar is creeping up to steal your car in the middle of the night. But the sensor doesn't actually possess the intelligence to know what a burglar is.
It just knows movement.
Exactly. It only knows that the baseline environment has been disrupted. So it clicks on, floods the yard with blinding light, whether it's an armed criminal, a stray cat wandering across the pavement, or literally just a heavy branch blowing in the wind. The sensor doesn't know the difference.
It really doesn't. And the critical part of that mechanism, according to the source, is that it prioritizes action over accuracy.
Better safe than sorry, basically.
Right. Because for most of human history, difference and danger were so closely linked that our evolutionary code just never had a reason to separate them.
It just grouped them all together.
Yeah. If your instinct forced you to exile the stray cat right along with the actual burglar, it didn't matter. You survived the night. The false positives kept you safe, so the tuning remained blunt.
But, I mean, I struggle to buy this completely. We aren't huddled around a fire in caves anymore. We live in a hyper-rational society now.
We like to think we do, sure.
Right, but we have logic, we have psychological evaluations, we have multi-round job interviews, and entire HR departments dedicated to vetting people.
Oh, absolutely.
So if this instinct is so outdated, why doesn't our modern rational brain just step in and override the motion sensor?
Well, because the motion sensor is faster. The primitive part of our brain, the amygdala, it processes those blunt signals milliseconds before our prefrontal cortex. The logical part of the brain even knows what's happening.
Wow, so it beats logic to the punch.
Every single time. By the time your logical brain comes online, your body has already experienced a spike of adrenaline and this visceral sense of discomfort. And, human beings are incredibly skilled at rationalization.
Oh, for sure. We can justify anything.
Exactly. Instead of our logic overriding the gut feeling, our logic is usually just deployed to justify it. We feel uncomfortable first, and then our rational brain invents a socially acceptable reason to explain why we don't like the person.
Like, oh, they're not a team player.
Yes, or they have bad energy, when in reality, they just tripped our prehistoric motion sensor.
Which means our internal radar is just blindly sweeping the room looking for difference. So what happens when that radar hits someone who isn't a threat at all, but is simply genuine?
It's a disaster for them.
Like someone who is maybe just a little bit awkward or completely transparent.
The instinct completely misfires. It targets the person who cries at the wrong moment during a high-stakes meeting, or the individual who just can't seamlessly arrange their face into the polite, neutral shape that a room expects when someone says something offensive.
Right, the person who blurts out the messy, complicated truth before they've had the time to package it into a comfortable lie.
Yes, exactly that person.
But wait, if they're just being honest, if they're just wearing their heart on their sleeve and speaking the truth, why does the group feel so profoundly threatened by them?
It seems backwards, doesn't it?
It really does. We universally claim to value honesty. Every corporate values page lists transparency at the very top. So why does actual transparency trigger the burglar alarm?
Well, the text points out that the tragedy here is a fundamental misunderstanding of what transparency actually feels like. To our primitive instinct, transparency reads as exposure, not honesty.
Exposure, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, when someone displays unfiltered openness, they're breaking the expected pattern of the room. The group doesn't experience that raw emotion or unpolished truth as a refreshing moment of honesty. They experience it as a wrongness they just cannot categorize.
And human groups have a very predictable, deeply ingrained response to things they cannot categorize.
They certainly do. They expel them. The instinct demands that the source of the social friction be removed to restore equilibrium.
Right. So the awkward person, the truth teller who spoke out of turn, is quietly or loudly just shown the door.
Pushed right out to the edge of the firelight.
They aren't invited to the next meeting, they get passed over for the promotion, or they're just, socially isolated at the dinner party.
And once that person is expelled, the dynamic in the room shifts immediately.
The tension drops. The group takes a collective breath and feels this profound, false sense of peace.
Safety restored, as the essay says.
But there is a line from the essay that is just an absolute gut punch regarding this exact moment. It says, "Except nothing dangerous left the room. Something honest did."
It really is a chilling realization. We are constantly exiling the truth tellers because they generate friction and they make us uncomfortable. And we just fatally confuse that discomfort with danger.
We pat ourselves on the back for protecting the culture of the team or keeping the tribe safe, when all we've really done is isolate someone for the crime of not knowing how to fake it. But wait, here's where it gets really interesting. If the genuine, slightly awkward people are generating all this friction and constantly getting kicked out of the center, who is actually surviving in the middle of the firelight?
That is the question.
Who is passing this primitive test?
The ones who survive and thrive in the center are the actually decisive, actually deceitful few. Because if awkwardness and friction are what trigger the alarm, well, the deceitful survive by mastering the art of ensuring they never trigger it in the first place.
So they just bypass it completely.
Totally. Their entire methodology is built around bypassing that primitive motion sensor.
It's not just about lying, though, right? I mean, it's a completely
Yeah.
different skill set. It reminds me of how a modern social media algorithm functions.
Oh, that's a great comparison. How so?
Well, when you open a feed, the algorithm doesn't have a personality. It doesn't have a soul or a truth of its own. It simply studies you. It monitors what you linger on, what you click, what makes you feel validated and comfortable, and then it serves you a perfectly customized reality designed to keep you scrolling.
It just eliminates all cognitive friction.
Exactly. You think you're interacting with the world, but you're really just interacting with a highly engineered mirror of your own preferences.
That algorithm metaphor is incredibly precise for what the text describes. The fluent operator in a social setting is doing the exact same thing.
They're mirroring us.
Yeah. They do not cry at the wrong moment because they have studied the room to know precisely what emotional response is expected. Their faces don't hold still for too long because stillness is a tell, and they do not deal in tells.
Wow. So they are just hyper aware of the physical and verbal signals that generate comfort, and they deploy them flawlessly.
Flawlessly.
But what happens when they are forced to tell the truth? Like when they can't just avoid the issue?
They shape it.
Yeah.
They almost never say the raw, unvarnished, true thing. They deliver the truth in the exact shape the room is already prepared to receive it.
Oh, man. So they use the buzzwords the CEO likes.
Yes. Or they frame the bad news as a growth opportunity.
Right.
And as the underlying text points out, this shaping is its own kind of concealment. Their entire survival strategy relies on complete fluency in the room's expectations. Because this fluency produces absolutely zero friction, the group's ostracizing instinct just remains completely dormant.
The motion sensor never clicks on because it doesn't even register that the baseline has changed.
Exactly. Which leads to this incredible, tragic irony. We look at these polished operators, these sort of algorithms in human form, and we think they are the most well-adjusted, integrated people in our society.
But they're actually the most misunderstood people in the room.
Because nobody in the room actually knows them. What the group embraces, what it trusts and elevates, is a performance.
It's just a performance so meticulously tailored to the group's desires that it has completely stopped registering as a performance.
We think we know the person, but we really only know the mirror they are holding up to us.
That is so dark. We reserve all of our vigilance, all of our aggressive suspicion for the awkward people who literally cannot help but be seen. They are fundamentally exposed.
Meanwhile, we spend absolutely zero vigilance on the operators who have made it their life's work to ensure they will never be seen for who they really are.
It's like we are guarding the front door with floodlights to keep out a stray cat, while the master thief has already talked their way past the guards by, I don't know, complimenting their uniforms and is now sitting comfortably in the boardroom.
That is exactly what's happening, and it is deeply unsettling when you recognize it happening in your own life. But what is truly terrifying is that this dynamic does not just ruin individual relationships or, like, dinner parties.
Right, it goes way beyond that.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it scales. This identical instinct operates at higher and higher volumes across our entire society. It literally defines how our world is structured.
Okay, let's trace how that scaling actually works. Think about a grassroots political movement or maybe a disruptive startup. In the beginning, it's full of these passionate, sincere people.
But because they are sincere, they are messy.
Very messy. They argue about the vision, they show raw emotion, they stumble over how to explain their ideas to the press, they generate a lot of friction.
And the instinct kicks in. The movement begins to exile its most awkward, most deeply sincere members because they are deemed, bad for the brand or too radical.
And who is left to rise to the top and define what the movement means?
The fluent operator, the person who knew exactly what slogans to say, exactly how to dress, and exactly how to smooth over the edges without ever actually committing to the core principles.
The sincerity is just pushed to the fringe and the performance takes the center.
Yes, and we see this play out in our institutions every single day.
Oh, absolutely. Look at modern corporate HR systems. We build these massive, complex review processes like 360-degree feedback, personality tests, multi-stage interviews.
All ostensibly designed to filter out bad actors and elevate genuine talent.
Right. But those systems are built and administered by humans running the exact same broken software.
Precisely. So institutions quietly bleed their most honest people. The genuine workers get burned out by the politics, or they point out a structural flaw that no one wants to address, and suddenly they get labeled as difficult.
And they're marginalized.
Meanwhile, the fluent chameleon is promoted past every single review system. They know exactly how to fill out the self-evaluation. They know exactly how to mirror the interviewer's body language.
They just game the algorithm.
Because the system is designed to reward fluency, not honesty.
Which brings us to the highest level, society itself. We are constantly obsessed with the outsider, the weirdo at the fringe. We scrutinize every messy public figure who falls apart on camera.
But we are completely unable to name what is happening at the very center of our power structures. Because the center made itself unnameable on purpose. It disguised itself as the norm.
So this forces us to reevaluate one of the most dangerous concepts in our culture, which is our definition of leadership. Like, why do we consistently hand power to these people?
The answer in the text often comes down to one specific trait that we constantly misinterpret: decisiveness.
Yes, the sheer speed of it. This is where the illusion is most powerful. We mistake decisiveness for honesty.
They really do.
Because when you ask a genuine person a complex, difficult question, what happens? They pause, they look up, they might stammer or say, as they grapple with the reality of the problem in real time, uncertainty is slow.
But certainty is fast, and human beings have never been good at telling a fast truth from a fast lie in the moment either one is spoken.
Right.
A person who decided in advance exactly what they were going to say, someone who has rehearsed their performance to maximize approval, they move through a room or a debate stage so much faster than a person who is still discovering what is true.
And we look at that speed, we look at the person who fires back and answers instantly and confidently without a single stutter, and we applaud it. We call it leadership.
But we never stopped to ask what the speed was actually for.
Was it the speed of brilliant, unparalleled competence? Or was it the speed of a rehearsed lie, perfectly designed to bypass our critical thinking?
According to this framework, it is almost always the latter. We are just so mesmerized by the lack of friction, by the absolute fluency of the delivery, that we hand over the keys to the kingdom without ever checking to see if there is an actual engine under the hood.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? If our fundamental instincts are this compromised, what do we do?
Well, the argument isn't that we should just embrace chaos. It's not suggesting we rip the doors off the hinges, let everyone in, and completely abandon discernment.
Right, it's not a binary where every awkward person is a hidden saint and every smooth talker is a psychopath.
No. Discernment is essential for survival. The problem isn't that we judge. The problem is the specific metric we are using to make the judgment. We desperately need to apply a software update to our instinct.
We have to force our rational brain to step in.
Yes. We need to ask a much harder question before the primitive brain is allowed to act.
And what is that new paradigm? What is the question we need to force ourselves to ask when the alarm bells start ringing?
Before we exile someone, before we write off a new hire because they made a bad first impression, or before we blindly trust a leader because they sound so incredibly put together, we have to pause and ask, is this person different, or is this person hiding?
Is this person different, or is this person hiding?
Because both of those things produce almost identical discomfort in a room. The genuine person breaking a social norm feels intensely awkward.
Sure.
But the deceitful person, if their mask slips for even a fraction of a second, also creates a wave of discomfort. But only one of them is an actual threat to the firelight. Only one is worth exiling.
But for thousands of years, we've relied on feel to answer that question. If it feels weird, we push it away. If it feels smooth and easy, we pull it close.
And the profound warning here is that by relying purely on feel, we keep getting it completely backward.
We are aggressively pushing away the very honesty we need to solve our problems. And we are pulling in the very deceit that will eventually dismantle us from the inside.
It requires a conscious, daily overriding of our most basic biology. It means learning to tolerate the friction of honesty. We have to learn to sit with the deep discomfort of someone who is unpolished, who is transparent to the point of being socially awkward, and just recognize that their lack of fluency might actually be the greatest proof of their authenticity.
It's about learning to appreciate the jagged edges.
Exactly. And conversely, it means learning to be deeply, fundamentally suspicious of perfect fluency.
When someone is just a little too smooth.
When they have absolutely no tells, when they seem to say exactly what you want to hear at the exact right moment.
That is when the real alarm bells should be ringing. Not because they are definitively a threat, but because their entire performance is designed to prevent you from ever knowing if they are.
It is a massive shift in how we navigate the world. From the break room to the ballot box, we have to stop confusing a lack of friction with the presence of truth.
That is so powerful. So as we wrap this up, the next time you find yourself at a dinner party or in a high-stakes meeting, just pay attention to your own internal motion sensor.
Yes, observe your own reactions.
The next time you find yourself instantly charmed by a flawlessly polished leader who seems to have all the answers, or immediately repulsed by a colleague who stumbled over their words and made the whole room go dead quiet, force yourself to pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, who is actually generating friction because they are real, and who is just flawlessly speaking the language of your own expectations? Are you actually protecting the firelight, or are you just afraid of the truth?